we'll see how it goes. It should be fun. But anyway, welcome. You can start talking.
Hey man, how's it going?
Oh man, no, you're right there.
I'm very good, thanks.
I'm glad. Thank you for your time and thanks for coming through.
Oh well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Hello, listeners. It's your resident Black Spider-Man, Linda Karabo, Mdluli. We're back with Tea Time. It's going to have a name change, people, so this is potentially the last episode of quote-unquote Tea Time. Same formats as always. You know how we love this part of the show, part of the art dealers, where we bring in incredibly interesting people, come in, share a bit of their story, share some experiences, kind of help out. We just want to be a helping hand to people there who are dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, who are going through a whole bunch of stuff, and hopefully we can bring on people who are experiencing the same things, and maybe just to encourage you, bring you some cool advice. So that's what we love so much about this section. So yeah, we have somebody who has been around for a while as far as support for the art dealers. He was one of the main listeners, one of the first few listeners in the beginning when we had like 5 listeners. Someone who's been there for me for a number of years now. But I'll let him introduce himself. Hello, say.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, and you?
Thank you once again for coming. Thank you once again for coming. This is Mr. Lee Weber, but I'll let him do the formal introductions. Tell him a bit about yourself. Tell the people a little bit about Lee.
Well, my name is Lee. My middle name is Forbes.
Mm-hmm. Like the magazine?
Yeah, I started a little magazine a few years ago. It's doing all right. And my surname is Weber. I am just turned 35 years old. We're married to an amazing woman, Janine Weber, and we have 2 beautiful kids. My boy is 4 years old and his name is Israel, and my daughter is in grade 1. She's 7 years old and her name is Skylar. And I'm a family man.
Hey.
And I work with Linda Karabo, and I know some of the guys that are part of the art dealers. I've been working on the campus here at New Covenant Church Bryanston for almost 6 years full time, but I have been involved in ministries here for longer than that. And grew up in a little town called Western Area, which is a flat land town. It's a kind of village that you drive past, not drive through. And it's a mining community, and my dad used to own a automotive parts store there. And so we were always plugged in there until I left the house at 18 years of age. As soon as I had the opportunity to get out of Western Area, and been living in the greater Johannesburg area ever since. Yeah.
So tell us about, I know a lot of people probably don't know much about that area of Western area, West On area, that's how you say it. So what was that like growing up? What was the community like? What's the vibes like? What's it like now? What can you tell us?
Well, I guess for most places when you're a younger kid, the community is all you really know until you get exposed to more. So I would say in primary school, it was a joy. Like back in the day, it seemed like a lot safer out there. So, on weekends, we'd often leave the house at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, gather with all your mates on bicycles, and you'd stay out the whole day until like it got dark. And whoever's house you ended up with at lunchtime, that mom would make like a whole plate of hot dogs, and you just mission around everywhere. You go drive through fields and velds and mine dumps and compounds and make catties and shoot birds and do whatever you. So I guess growing up was a lot of fun, a lot of outdoor stuff, a lot of sports, a lot of riding bike. When I got a bit older in primary school, I started skateboarding, and that pretty much took over my life for the balance of my schooling. Most afternoons I probably spent, I'm not exaggerating, but probably 3 to 4 hours a day skating.
Oh wow.
And my only challenge there was to be able to afford skateboards. But yeah, it was cool growing up in the town. It was everyone knew everyone, a lot of different kinds of friends. I had multicultural, multiracial friends, which is really cool, and when you're in it, you don't really see all the problems. It's only once you move out you see where like socially things were flawed or but yeah, I would say that it was a great upbringing. They didn't have an English high school, So I had to travel to the next town to find an English high school, and but that was also part of the fun. Interestingly enough, my father was very Afrikaans, although I guess at a younger age I didn't really know how Afrikaans he was, but his name was Johannes Hendrik Samuel Weber. But my parents chose, my mom was English, and they chose to raise us English, so they sent me to an English nursery school, English primary school, English high school. So that's me, eh?
It's weird because like when you say you don't really see the problems, like I grew up here in South Africa and in Kenya, but mostly here in South Africa in Mdluli in Soweto, which is like so Soweto's quite big as a township, and Mdluli is like a very, very small suburb within Soweto. So Soweto's like almost considered a town as much as it is a township. It is very, very big. It's one of the biggest townships, I think, in South Africa, or probably even like Southern Africa, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, Mdluli is like the same. There's no buildings. Like everyone has like one-story houses, and you would just, when I was a kid, you just wake up, and I lived with my grandmother at the time. We just play in like the streets and everything, go like find something to do, come back like super late, and you didn't realize. But I did go to school in Joburg, in Sandton. Go figure, yeah.
Jeez.
So that was a bit of a journey. So I definitely got two different perspectives as far as I was living. I went to a very, very upmarket nursery school and private primary school, but then I lived in like the township. So like I was definitely the kind of traditional taking taxis every day. But it was never. What was weird is that it never felt like it was a mission. You know what I mean? It was always.
That's just the norm. Yeah.
It was normal. That's all I knew. And then we moved up to a bit closer to where I live now in Brighton, a bit closer, probably in like 2005, 2006. And then I've been in this house that I live in now since 2007. So it hasn't been that long, but it's been. What's cool is that I've had both experiences. And so when you said you moved out at 18, where did you move to? And,
I actually moved to London, near Cresta. Stayed in a garden cottage with my two older brothers. So yeah, because Western area, even though it's part of Joburg, it includes all the all the major mines. And so even if you look at the shape of Johannesburg, it stretches out all the way to Western area, so that it includes the mines that actually bring in all the gold. Yeah. But essentially, like, it was an hour's drive from anything that's in Johannesburg. So any mall you wanted to go to, any shops, any like real job, you had to like travel far. So me with two of my brothers decided like we're gonna move somewhere that's a lot more central, closer to work. So yeah, I moved to London.
And what do you do currently? I know we work together, and I obviously know this answer, but then for the listeners, you've been involved in ministry, like you said, for a while, especially on this campus, but you have been employed full-time for what's going on 6 years now.
Yeah.
And you are the resident youth pastor here on campus.
Yeah.
And I remember, I distinctly remember, I think, when did you come on? 2013, right?
January 2013.
Yeah, so that was my grade 11 year. There's a school here on the campus, I think we've mentioned on previous podcasts, and I just distinctly remember when you came on with me and my friends, because at the school, they don't necessarily mention or talk about like new staff at the school and all that kind of stuff. So our first introduction to you was at First Friday, which is like an assembly we run on the Friday mornings at the high school, like a mini youth type vibes. And we just remember seeing this like huge guy with massive forearms, and we're like, who is this guy? This guy looks super scary and everything. We see you like walking across and everything. And I'm pretty sure none of us spoke to you, like within my group, none of us spoke to you until like half the year or something like that. It was crazy. But yeah, that was the first introduction. So you've been involved with full-time ministry for almost 6 years, as you say. What's that been like? And ups and downs, challenges, that kind of stuff. But like, what's it been like?
Yeah, I think what's cool about this particular campus, for those that know it, or maybe for those that don't know it, is that it's got so many different angles and businesses and ministries. And so I wouldn't say that it's like most churches in that you just have a Sunday service that gets focused on. But there's so many different avenues. So we've obviously got the school, we've got a nursery school, primary school, a high school, We've got a skate park on the campus. We've got football courts. We've got fields. There's swimming pools, and then just from a church perspective, the creative and arts department is constantly expanding and pushing boundaries. So being involved in this campus and this church it's very exciting because there's so much happening, so much to do. On any given day, there's 1,000+ people that come onto the campus with parents and business people. We've also got a coffee shop. But my main role is to lead the youth expression or anything that to do with high school kids. So essentially from like 13-year-olds to 18, 19-year-olds. And so very involved in the high school, involved in leading assembly on Friday, which we call Fresh Friday, as well as going on camps and hikes with the kids, doing counseling with the kids, doing any leadership development, involved with a lot of things school orientated. From the church point of view, overseeing the Friday night typical youth expression, as well as overseeing home groups or what we call connect groups or open lounges, and then anything to do with high school. So whether it's organizing skate, stuff to do with skating or sports or music events, and then obviously being on church staff, anything that the church is involved in terms of a Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Saturday events, you're required to be involved with. And then the skate park was also a project of mine.
Yeah.
So when I started, it wasn't really a skate park. There was a couple of steel ramps, and I had a vision for making it a bigger thing. Thankfully, the leadership on the campus, the main guy that leads is a ex-pro surfer.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned skateboarding or kind of any left-winged sports, he was fully keen. So it's always been such a blessing to have like the backing of the leadership in a lot of unconventional, ministries.
Totally. Yeah.
So
That's awesome. And like we've had these conversations before, like either just with you and me or like within like the leadership team. But the way like youth has changed over the years, and shout out first of all to all the listeners in university and all that kind of stuff. We're like, we're kind of getting a university following, which is rad, which is amazing, and a lot of people have reached out, which is super, super cool. But sort of that age group and younger, if you look at how youth has sort of changed, and this is not a conversation we've not had before, but like with me, and I always bring it up just because my high school experience and the way I experienced being young, I'm 22 now, but when I was in high school and my whole childhood, like there was such little things that I had to worry about. By no means that I have like the most lavish like upbringing like Daniel or Jordan, who have said this on the podcast openly. But I didn't grow up with much, but I had everything I needed. Like I had toys. I had like the odd PlayStation, Xbox, and all that kind of stuff. Didn't grow up in like the biggest house, but like everything was like super casual. Like I had next to no worries like in school. High school came along. Also like didn't really like care much for like being popular and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's probably just my personality, and maybe a lot of people here also didn't experience like having that kind of issues. But like, there's probably like the occasional person in my grade, or maybe some of the people a bit older than me, who felt like being popular was the thing. And I don't think it's necessarily as much, or maybe back then it wasn't necessarily a big thing at King's. But then now, like I look at even like my sister's grade 6, being like popular, being cool is so important. And like, my sister's like 12 years old, and looking on the high school, we even chatted yesterday, like 2 years forward, as like a group of grade 8s, grade 9s who are like obsessed with having like the best Instagram, and like everything needs to look cool and look presentable. Wherever they go, they have to look the part. And like that just wasn't a thing for me growing up. Like, and I could probably speak to my friends, it probably wasn't the same for either one of us. I think it only really, where I found like my niche and where I started like liking fashion and liking music was probably my first year in university, when I realized how different school and university are. Like school is cool and all, and you think it's the be all and end all, but then you go to university and you realize like it's such a small, like minuscule part of your whole life. Like you learn so much going out of high school, like the routine of the same old every single day is like completely switched in like the first week of university. So I think that year especially, this was 2015, I learned a lot about myself and just a lot about the things I liked, and that's kind of what has developed me ever since. But then for you, being in youth ministry, especially for the past 6 years, especially because you were the youth leader when I was in high school, the shift from like, I guess from like when you started into now, what have you noticed, or like the stuff I'm talking about, have you seen that? What have been the main challenges being in youth leadership, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think when it comes to youth, it's a constantly changing thing. You know, when I was a lot younger in high school, you know, we would often look at our parents or older people at the time and just be like, yeah, you guys have no clue of what's going down.
Yeah.
And things are so different now. But people don't realize that that's been true for thousands of years, you know. There's always going to be a difference between an adult and someone that's going through adolescence or puberty at that age, and just kind of figuring themselves out. You know, there's obviously shifts as to when someone is, adulthood is demanded from someone. So, you know, maybe 1,000 years ago, people at 15, 14 were demanded, adulthood was demanded a bit earlier from them because they had to start working. But, you know, every society is relevant to itself, you know, so people have to figure that those things out for themselves within that environment. But there's certain things that have changed that I guess add a lot more pressure and a different kind of struggles to young people's lives, which hasn't been experienced before, because I mean technology is probably the biggest factor if you look in the last like 20-30 years of how the exponential growth of technology over the last few years is just like, I mean, we can't keep up.
Yeah.
So I think popularity has always been a massive thing for young people, even when I was young. You know, everybody wants to be liked, everybody wants to be cool, everyone wants to be related to, and you know, with lots of cool people, and nobody likes to be kicked out or be the nerd or be bullied. So that's something that's always been around. I think the major difference that we've seen over the past probably between 3 and 7 or 8 years is just the development of social media and the ability that someone's got to present an online profile that can be completely unrealistic to what they're living in real life. You know, 15, 20 years ago, like if you didn't look good and you weren't cool, everybody knew it. Because like there was no hiding it. There's no hiding your feelings. Like you know, what people didn't see, they didn't see, and what they saw, they saw. Whereas now there's such a big drive to, you know, look good on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook or whatever you use, and you have the ability of creating this whole like fictitious profile where you're always happy, you're always posting your best poses in your best clothes, having the most fun. But what you never post is when you're in the room crying or down or messed up or depressed or struggling with anxiety or stressing because of exams or not being able to concentrate because of the house that you live in. And so, I mean, we've seen it with so many famous people that have taken their own lives or died because of overdoses. Like, you think they've got it all down. They're making money. Every post you see, every red carpet they walk on, it's all flashes and smiles. Good, They look like $1 million, but a week later they're dead, and you find out that they have this trail of misery and depression and anxiety, and so you think like, geez, you know, what is real, what is not. So I think of late that's probably been one of the biggest struggles is trying to figure out how you give young people handles on what it means to live life for real, and not only how to, but also like, you know, how to make those decisions to actually put your hands on what's real and focus on what actually matters, as opposed to these fictitious like profiles and things where you want everybody to think you just like the bee's knees. But but it's a struggle, I mean, we as older people, you can look to them and say, oh, you know, back in my day it wasn't like this, and it's such a cliche thing to say, but for someone that's whatever 12, 13, 14 years old, whatever they're going through, to them is a big deal. And so to me, like it might mean nothing to me, but I cannot say to them like, oh, it's you're being so silly, or like it doesn't matter, because in their minds, in their hearts, like it is ruling them. And so it's trying to figure those things out. So I guess that's the biggest struggle, you know. And I would say it's something that I haven't figured out yet. You know, just when you think you heading in the right direction, within months it changes again, and the bar changes, and every grade that comes to grade 8 or 9, every year changes. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
That totally does, yeah. I think it was the episode, probably 2 episodes back, we were kind of touched on mental illness and all that kind of stuff, and Daniel made quite a really, really good point where, and this is on top of what you were saying about kind of living this kind of fictitious lifestyle. I've also found, I don't know if it's you've also seen, but also showing, I don't know, this sort of, and I really don't want to offend anyone, and that's not what I'm trying to do, but this kind of overly emotional, trying to show like the depressed side, the whole, that's become the norm now. And that's, if you look at like kind of the music that's really, really popular now, like that sort of emo hip hop type vibe is really big right now. And like the whole Lil Uzi, Lil Peep, that vibe, like XXX, all those guys, it's very, that whole sad boy type thing is like really, really big now. And also like just for anyone who genuinely is struggling with that, I hope I haven't offended you, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But that whole, it's become cool now to try and portray that. And Daniel made a good point where he was saying people who are actually suffering with that, society will never like be on their side, because now if you come out and say, yo, I have depression, people are going to be like, whatever, like all these other guys have depression. And it sucks because that person genuinely needs the attention or needs like the counselor and the help, when there's 50 other people who are just doing it because they want the likes and that attention of people just like commenting like, oh, I'm here for you and all that kind of stuff, when they're completely fine. But it's just because maybe they're not completely fine, but they just want that whole like look and feel, that whole vibe. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, Zinele, who's a like up and coming artist, which is pretty cool. She's a cousin of one of my closest friends, and we were like chatting about like mental illness and stuff like that. And it's something that like I've struggled with, and I've had conversations with various people and all that kind of stuff, but I've never been like super vocal about it, just because of how I feel it's going to be seen, just because all of a sudden now I'm just another guy on a list of people who say that they have mental illness and all that kind of stuff. And it's something that I'm wanting to try and shine a light on, of get people who genuinely like need help. Like I would love to be somebody who can help in a platform like that, you know. And if something like this, like Art Dealers, where we can have these kind of conversations, shed a bit of light on it, where it's not just this thing that you're posting on Instagram, like it's a real problem, like it's a genuine thing. It's I would love to do, like, and for anyone listening, like if you want to reach out and have the conversation, would love to have you on. But for you, on top of the fact that there's the mixture of trying to look cool and all that kind of stuff, how do you think social media and all that kind of stuff has played a part in this entity of sad boy lifestyle? And do you think it's just a product of society, like the music we listen to, or like do you think it's hand in hand with, do you know what I think? I think it's because we try and portray this image which we'll never obtain, and then because we can't obtain it, we feel like it's kind of out of reach, and then we just get super sad and super depre about our normal lives, and then it makes us feel like we are these, and in a way that can definitely cause a bit of like a depressive state or anything like that. Not necessarily clinical depression, but like feeling depressed and feeling sad, feeling anxious, because you're never going to reach this image that you've tried to reach, and then you just come down to earth and like, oh man, my life really sucks, type of thing. That's what I always think it is. But do you think it's other factors? Like, I mean, it could be the music, we listen to, it could be the things we see every day, like the couple goals, and then we feel sad and all that kind of stuff. I don't really think it's trying to balance your real life with the life that you're trying to portray. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think everything plays a part, I don't think it's just music or just the games that you play or just the people you hang around with or just your parents. I think everything plays a part. There's certain things that do play bigger parts, and that changes from person to person. You know, you have someone that's got a solid family and amazing parents that have set such a great example of what family looks like and the support and the love and the acceptance. And so something like social media or music will have little or a lot less effect on those people's lives. But you have someone else that's grown up in an abusive household that either doesn't have parents and is living with a guardian or is left home, and it's just like there's so much trauma where that person would completely dive into social media as a place to look for recognition, completely dive into what that person's friends say and accept about them. And so they will always be fighting for acceptance and wanting to be loved and just be part of something. And so it does differ from person to person. And I mean, even going back to the other person with the solid family, you know, you'll have 3 siblings that come from the same family, and even within those siblings, each one of them have got different characters and respond to different things. I mean, I myself grew up, we were 4 boys, same mom and dad. We went to pretty much the same schools and essentially had similar support, and yet like every one of us was so different, and each one of us got into very different things. You know, I got into skateboarding and b-boying and completely immersed myself into the hip-hop culture for years, whereas my older brother was completely immersed into like heavy metal and that culture, very like dressed very dark and emo and you know, back then tattoos and earrings and then you had my second oldest brother who was like the absolute like jock. He was like fully into sports. He was captain of every team he put his hand to. He was head boy of Hostel, like and so, you know, it's the same family and yet people respond differently. And even now, as brothers now, we've still got such different characters and respond to different things. Like if he has his car breakdown, like it's a really, really big deal for him, and it really gets him like down and it's a struggle for him to deal with. Whereas for me, because of like what I've grown up with and my passion for cars, I consider it as part of owning a car. And when it happens, I'm just like, meh, you know, it doesn't get me down at all. But I might have another situation where like he's just like, what are you talking about? It's not a stressful thing, and I'm just like, my life is gonna end. And so for young people, it's very difficult to pinpoint. And I think that the biggest fear I have and the biggest danger is that you have 2 people next to each other who are both saying they're depressed, both showing depression on their profiles on Instagram or wherever. And on face value, you look and say, okay, well, it's just the norm. But the one person is literally on the verge of committing suicide, and the other person couldn't be further from that thought. And how do you, as an outsider, look in and just say, like, well, there's the problem, and that one's not a problem at all? You can't force both of them to go for counseling and to go and see a psychologist or follow that process, because if you did that for everyone, like, well, psychology I suppose would be a good industry to get into if you want to make money. But the only thing that makes the biggest difference in those people's lives is personal interaction of real friends that are willing to stick their necks out to save that person in spite of losing them as friends possibly. And that is something that the world is lacking more and more of, where people are so focused on being liked and being popular that like friends will rather cover up what's happening with their close friend to their parents, to teachers, because they think that's the friend thing to do, which is not. And rather than having a friend that's like, you know what, I don't care if you don't want me as a friend anymore, I'm not going to sit aside and just watch you die and kill yourself. And so they become a whistleblower, and in some cases, you know, that other person might be, you know, unfriend them or tell them to get out and never be friends again. But in my opinion, that was the only true friend. That was like willing to override like popularity for the sake of someone's life. And I think what's social media and a lot of online things has been damaging is to the ability of an individual being able to to grow socially on an interpersonal level, not online, not like through cell phones and calls or that kind of stuff, but actually being able to sit in a room with someone and pick up on nuances, on feelings, on vibes, on what, whether their friend looks different today or sounds different today, and realizes that something's gone down at home and it suddenly becomes an issue. And I certainly don't have the answers for it. Every day I try and figure out things that work on particular people, and unfortunately something that might work on you doesn't work on the next person. So that's where like the interpersonal skills are such a big deal. But I think we're also having far less people that are either employed or passionate about, whether it's youth ministry, whether it's teachers that take a serious interest in bettering the lives of young people as opposed to just fulfilling a job. Whether it's any kind of therapists that are, it's more of a calling to them than it is a job. Like, it's cool to get paid for something, and if you can earn good money, then that's a serious bonus. But I feel like we, the amount of people that are genuinely all about bettering the lives of young people is getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. And so I don't know how we fix it. The more we see people killing themselves or like serious issues happening, like the more I just get freaked out for my kids, and I can only do as much as I can at home to make sure that they're loved and accepted, and teach them that their self-worth is not wrapped up to in what colleagues or school friends think of them. But it's not easy. And I guess all of us, what's important is for us to continually have these conversations. What I really appreciated is if a famous person or someone that's got like millions of followers is actually just honest about what they're going through, and if they're down and out, like they're honest about it. If they go in to see counseling for depression, like to just show people that there is a way out, and there is people that are going to listen. It might not be your best friend, but the best thing is to actually just talk to people, whether it's an uncle and aunt that you trust, whether one of your parents like actually takes you seriously, whether it's a school teacher that they're like genuinely looking out for people. That's usually the hardest step, is that first conversation, to go and see someone and say, hey, you know what, like I generally am quite down most of the time, but I feel like now I've gone down a level and I'm getting a bit scared and I don't know why, and just talk to someone.
Yeah, and like you said, it's hard to start that first step, but it's always kind of the leap of faith in a way, So
I think a big thing is really, something that's hard for us as a modern generation, and as we go along, it's getting worse. Is being in a place where we can genuinely be honest with ourselves. We do live in a society where everyone is so quick to be offended, and people get offended for anything. They get offended for stuff that doesn't even matter to them, but they want to throw out comments all over the place because just that's the thing to do. But if we're in a place where we can genuinely be honest with ourselves and say okay, this is actually do I genuinely believe that this person that I say is my best friend, or is it just in this particular school, it's cool to have this person as my friend? And usually when you go through serious situations, the easiest way to tell if someone's going far beyond what a normal friend is required is when they start telling you stuff that you maybe don't want to hear, and they're not just encouraging you to do all the wrong things or hide things up, but actually pulling you aside and saying, hey, don't be an idiot, your parents love you, so stop lying to them, stop hiding stuff, stop stealing stuff, or that person is actually no good for you, and you might be having fun now, but it's not going to end well. It's being honest with ourselves and honest with each other, but it's hard. It doesn't come easy. In fact, it's getting harder, I think.
Man, this is an amazing episode. I love this. We should have a part 2. I think this is good. This is one of those.
Keen, right?
Yeah, man, we should definitely have another combo. But yeah, just to thank you very much. That was awesome. Definitely, I'm super keen to continue the conversation. But yeah, having this is just a person. I don't think I've ever asked you this, or I think you have mentioned it before, but just with so you lead the team that you lead the youth team, YBF Young Blood Forever Youth here on campus. This is your 6th year, but where do you see it in 10 years from now? What would be your ideal vision for it in 10 years? Whether or not, I mean, I'm not putting this out in the air, or maybe I am, God called the man. Like if you're not the guy who's leading anymore, you've been called to some beautiful country, or if you're still here, whatever it is, like what is your vision for like the next 10 years as far as like the youth that comes, of course, but then YBF as a whole, just as a community of people, the leaders, the kids, people that we know and relate to, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think a big thing is when vision is or you have a vision or plan for something that is like super achievable and very achievable by one person, then it's in my opinion quite dead-ended, and that you're not dreaming big enough. And so probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I was quite challenged to start dreaming way beyond what my abilities were, and so my vision and hopes for YBF go far beyond where I'm quite convinced I won't be around to see all of it come to pass. But that doesn't stop me like dreaming about it and talking to people about it, because my hope is that vision and that hope gets carried on to the leaders that are around me, and those that are going to pick up the baton after me. And I guess like I would love to see YBF as a massive entity where it's recognized partly because of its passion towards arts and creativity. I kind of have this idea of this massive creative arts center which surrounds like our main meeting place and big foyer with a coffee shop and a merch store and studios and workshops where stuff gets built and made for shows, for displays, and for an incredible place for all kinds of art to come and hang out. And when I say all kinds, I mean even the guys that don't see themselves as artistic because they're passionate about numbers or they're passionate about like logistics. Like there's all different kinds of art, and those things get played out in different ways. So every team still needs those kind of things to bring structure. So a place where guys can come and hang out and either do schoolwork, homework, varsity work. If the guys are fully employed, half employed, or unemployed, but they just want a place where they can build, they can paint, where they can seek advice. That's a safe environment. Like that's definitely something I want YBF to be recognized for on a great scale. But beyond that, definitely a place where people that are struggling in life, people that don't have family support because they don't have parents or their parents are too busy to actually give them time, as well as a place where the scriptures and Bible is the focus and base of everything, and the relationship with God is not hidden or put aside or watered down, but is the absolute be-all, end-all, and the absolute goal for everything that gets done, and that the artistic and the passions and the people's desires are worked out through what they recognize that God has given them as far as talents are concerned, or where their hearts kind of pull towards, as well as a place where people with struggles, whether it's depression or that suffered abuse or just struggling to figure out what they want to do with their lives, that stuff that gets addressed through a massive team of guys that have got either just mad skills, mad passion, or huge experience in walking those things. So like it's big, it's massive, and I mean the campus here, for those that don't know, I mean they've always been a church and a community that dream up to like 100-year vision, and so everything is always way beyond and bigger than what we see, that most of us will see walk out in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. But that doesn't stop us, and it doesn't mean that we get it right. Often you'll look at yourself and you'll look at your situation and be like, geez, I don't know how we're going to change this in the next couple of months, or what is the next step. And sometimes you get it right and it goes well for like a year. Sometimes you miss it, and for a couple of months things don't seem to go well. But you can't get down. You've got to keep having conversations with guys that have gone before. Have conversations with the people under you that the up and comings, that's can see blind spots, and they've got fresh eyes and can see new things. So keep opening that conversation. So my hope, probably one of my biggest dreams, is to come back to this campus like 20, 30 years, I don't know how long, but to come back and just stand in awe as to what has been developed, from the ministry, from the youth. What are the guys doing? What grounds they're breaking? Are they pushing boundaries with music, recordings, designs, paintings, like designing art or designing even furniture and interior things, and so that's
Super
pretty much
exciting,
it.
Super exciting. And that was a great episode. But to make sure we don't go over time, there will be a part 2. There definitely will be a part 2. We'll see how busy. Lee's always busy. This is like the first time I got him free for a while, but we'll try and get him in again. This is really awesome. But I do have some, just sort of, just some young casual questions
Swing them.
So Lee and I, besides the fact that we're just great friends, we have a lot in common. One of which is our passion for cars. My grandfather has an amazing car collection, and that's what started my love for cars. Lee is a car fanatic, knows a lot about cars. I know my fair share, but then his brain is like 3 times bigger than mine when it comes to cars. So this is you've probably thought about this, but if you could close a road, any road in the entire world, or a racetrack for a whole day, what road or racetrack would you choose, and what car would you use?
Oh wow. Geez, that's not an easy one. I would say that there's probably even car changes that get changed between each one. I think if it was a racetrack, I'm a serious Porsche fan, and there are many reasons for that. It's not just because I like the car. There's a lot more to the Porsche as a company and what they've achieved over the years. But I think because of that, I'm a massive GT3 fan. Just everything about the GT3. It's not the fastest Porsche you can buy, yes I know. But I have the privilege of driving a few, and it is just everything I think a car should be. It's an absolute driver's car. It revs high. It's got amazing power for such a small engine. It achieves some of the world's best track times. It's broken records. It's just, I've never climbed that one without my heart beating, like sweating. It's just been incredible. So to put that on a track, just about any track, as long as it's got like long. I mean, I have not driven the new upgraded Kalami. So I mean, even something close to home. I would love it if someone said, "Here's a GT3 RS
for a whole day.
Here's the guy that's going to be putting fuel in. There's a few sets of tires, and there's no one else here." Except some maybe some emergency services just in case it goes airy. But that would be the ultimate driving experience for me. But if I haven't had the privilege of traveling all around the world and visiting all the roads, but I'm pretty sure there's some amazing windy, long, beautiful roads in the Alps or in the south of France. I've even seen some videos of some road closures in good old Cape Town, along the coast, which I've driven up the coast many times. Unfortunately, it's always been in a little Rento Picanto or an I-10, and I've dreamed of being in a real, like maybe a soft top like GT cruiser with the family, and just like enjoying the bursts of power, but also smelling the fresh breeze off the coast. So geez, I'm so much of a car fanatic. You could say like, here's a terrible road. What car would you? And I would still absolutely love it. You told me here's a dirt road. I would ask for a rally car. You can literally give me anything, and I'll have fun in a car.
That's awesome. If anyone's interested, so I have a few in mind. There's at some point in our lifetime, I feel we need to go to this place. So the Virginia International Speedway in the States, East Coast. So there's the racetrack that you go to, but there's also a resort on there So you could have like family holiday, and then
I could disguise it as a family holiday.
Disguise it as a family holiday, and it's like proper like chalet vibes, very nice places. And then the racetrack is like behind the actual resort.
My gosh, I told my wife, but like, you
Which
go
is-
and swim at Scala and go to the beauty salon. Me and Israel are going to be out for a few hours.
And the Virginia International Speedway is a proper, like, they use it for NASCAR, they use it for like American touring car driving. So it's a proper, fully fledged FIA registered track, and it is very, very nice. It's one of those kind of high speed, so not as many like hairpins and all that kind of stuff, but just a lot of high speed stuff, which is pretty awesome. And you just, I mean, waking up to like just really, really nice engines is pretty dope. So that would definitely be a track that I would go to. For a whole like weekend, you know, just have a whole resort. As far as the car goes, I'm a huge BMW guy, but there's very few BMWs that I would track, even though there are definitely some that are built to do that. So I'd probably go a bit out there, maybe like I love the Ferrari 458. It's one of my favorite cars of all time, and the Speciale, the last one they made, the last naturally aspirated one, is probably as perfect as a car can be. Amazing car, and my friend's dad actually has one, so I've seen it driven in one. It is incredible, an absolute amazing machine. So probably that would be my choice. A little boring, I know, but that'd probably be my choice. And just some random ones. What movie does everyone like, but you think is absolutely terrible?
Oh wow. A movie that everyone likes.
Yeah, always like generally considered like a good movie, or like a really decent kind of movie.
Oh. I think I'm gonna probably be pass on that one.
Yes.
Just not to offend anybody, because there are some series which I have. There's just no love that I have for them, and I think I'd actually hurt some friends' feelings, and probably have to deal with some conversations post this podcast. But I think for most parts, it's probably just things that I haven't given like full time to, you know, that I've actually gone and watched all of them and being able to give like a proper opinion on it.
Sure.
I'm someone that can appreciate a lot about any kind of movie. Funny enough, like I actually, probably some of my favorite movies are serious like chick flicks in terms of like drama and love stories, and especially ones that are based on true stories. And so, you know, I would say the ones that irritate me the most typically is stuff that's like super predictable, like maybe a super predictable kind of chick flick, where like you start the movie and you already know like who's gonna get together, and it's just too perfect. Like if towards the end the lover dies, I'd be like, yes. Some like realness, you know, true life stuff, because often in life things don't end that way. But yeah, I would have to. There's a particular series of movies that I have in mind, but I'm not going to mention that on air.
Oh man, I hope the one I'm thinking of is not the one in your mind.
Exactly.
Because if it's the one in my head, that's like one of my favorite movies of all time. But for me, this is probably a fairly recent one, because I love movies, and I'm not too much of a purist where I'll hate a movie for a specific reason. But there is one movie which was it was loved as far as like a cult fan base went, was Suicide Squad. Genuinely hated every single minute of that movie. I thought it was terrible. And even just as a movie, the way it's shot and edited is absolutely shocking. Honestly, it's terrible, and I don't know why. Like, the cosplay people will tell you that it's amazing, and like, yes, as far as makeup and all that, that was great. Like, everything was done like super well. But the direction was horrible. Hated that movie. That movie must never be made again. The second one, apparently, James Gunn, the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy, is on board to do the second movie, to write and direct. So maybe they could redeem it. But at this point, I really don't care. So that movie. What's your favorite 90s jam?
Song? Wow. 90s?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole pool of genres, music. I mean, the 90s is It's making a bit of a comeback now. A lot of people are liking the styles and everything. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot.
Jeez, I wouldn't narrow it down to one. I mean, there's two specific areas that I went through. In kind of senior primary school, I was very big into like the grunge and alternative. And so for me, listening to a couple of old Nirvana tracks really brings up like a lot of old emotional feelings of like the first few girls I liked as a primary school kid, and just like the era that I was like going through as a senior in like this small little village school and trying to figure out who I was. That really like throws me back.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the most influential groups at the time of me really getting into the deep and dirty of hip hop was any old Wu-Tang Clan track will just be like, oh my gosh. So yeah,
that's a good one. That's a really good one. My favorite band of all time is Jamiroquai, and their first album came out the same year I was born, 96, Traveling Without Moving. And JK is the lead singer of Jamiroquai, is a huge car fan. If you've watched Top Gear or any form of fifth gear autocar,
he has a couple of Porsches.
He has a couple of Porsches, big Porsche guy, big Ferrari guy. He's always been featured. So if you are a fan of any of that medium, you've probably seen him. And the cover is a recreation of the Ferrari logo, which is really cool. And the best song on there is called Virtual Insanity. That's my favorite 90s song ever. But like I love hip hop, so. And man, Jay-Z's first album was out that year. Feeling It, probably my favorite out of that album, so that would be me. Okay. So last two quick ones. What things do you not like doing? I hate trying new food. Like, I'm so stuck in my ways.
I would say washing dishes.
That's a good one.
Like, especially, look, my wife is an absolute foodie, and don't get me wrong, I'm very privileged to be able to eat the food that is produced by my amazing wife.
It is great food.
But man, does she make a mess in the kitchen. She cooks like a whirlwind, and like, it's just insane. And I mean, we've got a dishwasher, but the thing is, when Janine cooks for guests and like family coming over, there's no ways all that stuff fits in the dishwasher. It's just like, it's manic. And the biggest problem is like sometimes she uses these massive trays and pots that will never fit in the dishwasher. And it's all like roasted stuff. And I mean, I'm a very hands-on husband. Like Janine will tell you, there's nothing that I shy away from. But offering help in the kitchen and going into the scullery is a dark, lonely place for me. So I would say that's probably one of my worst things to do. And something else, I don't know, I guess in some ways I'm a bit of a procrastinator. So when there's like something that's important to be done in terms of like a task, but it's not something I'm particularly passionate about, like I will find 100,000 things to do that are not urgent to do, walking circles around this one thing until like the actual final hour. And I think that's something that I'm just like, oh man. But yeah,
it's hilarious. Yeah, no, I hate trying new food. Even if it's like good, I'm just so stuck in my ways of what I like.
I love new food.
I know what I like, and I'm so like simple. Like my parents get so annoyed with me. Like I order the same thing always.
Oh no, I think Janine's culture.
Always. Oh man. I mean, I love food, and growing up, where both my parents are amazing cooks, so I've had great food at home. But if we go to a restaurant, just say any
pizza or burger.
Oh man, like spaghetti bolognese at every single Italian restaurant.
It's like my kids.
Oh man, any steakhouse, T-bone steak or like lamb chops or something. I'm so simple. Like I'll try. I'm not saying I won't do it, but it will burn me inside.
Yeah.
And the last one, and I guess a pretty apt one. What inspires you? Lee Forbes, whoever.
What inspires me? I think there's a few things that inspire me. Without sounding over spiritual, I have legitimate times where I'm fully inspired by God and the Holy Spirit, where like I just feel like where I really connect to what I feel is my sense of purpose, and through those times like God speaks to me in the most amazing ways. And that's something that drives me with the strength that nothing else I've ever experienced drives me. Where I will go far beyond my desires, far beyond what I like, and even dive into areas where I dislike things or I'm uncomfortable, but I'll push the boundaries because there's such a deep call. And so that's probably the strongest. I can't say that it's something that drives me every day, all day. I mean, there's an overall drive, but in terms of really being moved by the Holy Spirit and God, when that happens, it is life-altering, absolutely life-altering. And yeah, so that's definitely one. And then, just on a personal level, I think two things that inspire me is guys that that have got a passion to do something, and I know that it's beyond their comfort zone. So for example, someone that's like really struggles with public speaking, but they've got a passion to see people taught and be led in a such a way, and see them stand up on stage, and even though they're super nervous, like push through and do an amazing job of it. And when I think of guys that have started companies and businesses and just achieved much, but you've seen where they've started like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and you just know like what kind of person they were, and you're just like, they've pushed through. I think that inspires me when people really push through the tough times. And I think that's probably my most inspirational things. I think my family also inspires me, not from a point of view like I don't look at my son and learn how to drive a car from him. But I think just in terms of giving me courage to work hard, to push harder, to dream big, to always think about what's next. As an individual, I've told people like recently, like someone asked me like, it was my birthday last week on the 17th of October, just so that you guys remember that. And someone asked me like, do you feel any older? And I said to them like, I don't even know when I'm going to start feeling like an adult. Like I don't feel like an adult, but I've got a mortgage, I've got cars, I've got kids, I've got people that rely on me, but I don't feel like an adult. I don't feel like a parent. But like when I think about my wife and my kids and my family, and even my brother and my mom and my wife's parents, those are things that make me look so deep inside and so hard at the future, that grounds me in the most incredible way. And those are the things that have pushed me throughout life to go beyond my comfort zones and go beyond like just what I feel like doing, which is often the thing, even modern society, everybody just wants to do what they feel like doing. And that's never going to get you anywhere, There's so many hard things in life that come your way, like tough situations. People die, you have accidents, like you make bad decisions and make mistakes, and you hurt people along the way. And those things can give you a solid left jab or a left hook, and you can either fall down or you can get back up.
Yeah.
And I think my family gives me like one of the strongest motivations to just, it inspires me to like work harder and dream bigger and go beyond like my comfort zones. Yeah.
That's amazing. But yeah, then thanks for this awesome chat. Thank you for your time.
Hey man, it's been a pleasure.
This has been awesome. We'll definitely have you on again. I'm super keen to keep conversations like this going and just delve deeper. I think we just touched the surface on a whole bunch of stuff on the man who makes Lee Forbes, so I'd love to have you on again. But yeah, guys, that was it for Tea Time. The new name is called Everyday Faces. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the new artwork pop up around this point now, maybe a bit earlier. But yeah, shout out to 2 Meets for coming up with that name, Everyday Faces. We want to interview people like Lee, super interesting people who have not just great stories, but who just have really cool stuff to say. It doesn't. What's happening, everyone? It's your resident Black Spider-Man. Shout out to Lee again for that awesome episode. We just want to make a final shout out to the song that you're hearing right now. It's by Heavy Hands. The song is called Night Color. Big, huge thank you to Deeper Shades Records for letting us use this track. To Lars Behrenroth, the legend himself, who actually gave us permission to play this track. Shout out to you, Lars. To download this track, go to deepershades.net/Heavy Hands Night Colors, and you'll be able to find this amazing track. For more awesome tracks like this, head over to deepershades.net. For the mixes every week by Lars Behrenroth, head over to that same website. So I hope you guys enjoy. This is Heavy Hands Night Colors.